Welcome, dear friends, to another Seven Last Words of Christ service. We will keep this to a few short minutes this evening. I know everyone is busy, and these are more meditations than anything, not really sermons or real long discourses. Good evening, Polly. Thank you for being with us. We're getting started around 6:37 here on Wednesday evening. Here it is, March the 24th of 2021. Hard to believe next week will be Holy Week. We'll be looking forward to Maundy Thursday on April 1st, Good Friday, April 2nd, and an Easter vigil of some kind. We don't know exactly if we're going to be able to do that in person. So we're going to kind of keep that close to the vest. We're going to look at the weather, see how people are doing getting together, and if we can possibly swing in-person meetings next week during Holy Week, we're going to try to do it. You heard it here first, but we don't know yet for sure how that's going to transfer into the rest of our situation, with people feeling like they want to come back, or if we can do it safely. Maybe we'll do it outdoors. Maybe we'll meet in a park. Maybe we'll meet out in our parking lots at either Oakland or Kansas Avenue. So those are very much on the table. We just haven't really confirmed that yet. If we do them outdoors or inside, for that matter, we'll make sure we do it on Facebook Live. If you can't make it in person, you just would rather see it online. But again, we'll let you know. Hopefully, I was telling somebody yesterday, we will know by this weekend what our plans are going to be. So we've got about 3 days to kind of look things over, see how we're doing. But again, I do thank you for joining us. I hope that the Lenten season has been a meaningful one for you. We started it on February 17th, so that's 5 weeks ago now, today, that we started the Lenten observance. And it's interesting. I was thinking today about Lent, and before we do the seven last words here real quick, I was kind of drawn to the fact that Lent is like a lot of things. It's kind of what we make it out to be. And for some, it's very meaningful. For others, I've been in churches that didn't even know what Lent was. They thought Lent was something that came out of the dryer, and you had to take it off that little screen and make sure you pitch it every so often. They had no clue as to what Lent was in most cases. Neither here nor there. What it is, though, I believe, is a way for us to focus on Christ and to maybe see him in a new way. And so, the old saying was, or maybe the old tradition was to give up something for Lent. If you grew up like I did back in maybe the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, it was pretty routine for people in the Catholic faith in particular to have certain days of fasting or to abstain from eating meat. And of course, now a lot of people abstain from eating meat as part of their daily routine, either vegetarians or vegans or what have you. But nonetheless, hi, Rose. Thanks for joining us. So those were part of it. But the other idea was giving up something for Lent. And I've talked to a lot of people, and they gave up a lot of different things for Lent. Different people gave up different things, and so I've mentioned this on a few of our get-togethers online here, maybe in person, that I think it's good if you give up something, if it has a meaning behind it, and you're not just doing it out of like an obligation or showing God how disciplined you can be, but if it's something that draws you to God, then I think that's great, and I'm all for it. If it's just a ritual, a religious act, it doesn't have a lot of meaning other than you're just making yourself, you're gritting your teeth, you're white-knuckling it, like you're driving through a hailstorm. Maybe it's not the most appropriate thing, because God really just wants our hearts. He wants to know that we love him and we want to serve him. We want to obey him. We were reading in Psalm 51 on Sunday, the sacrifice that's pleasing to God is a broken and a contrite heart. A broken and a contrite heart he will not despise. So he will not reject that. And so here's what I wanted to say real quick about that. All that to say this. We can give up something, however, when it's meaningful and it does draw us to God, it can make us more aware of God's presence. It can quicken us to think more about God. And so in that regard, I'm certainly not opposed to people giving up things for Lent in whatever way, shape, or form that might be. And so, again, just a thought to share with you tonight as we look at the 7 last words of Christ. Well, this is our, I believe, the third one we're looking at tonight, and it is a great one. So the first, remember, was when Jesus was on the cross. He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So that was number 1. And then number 2 was, of course, last week when the thief on the cross asked Jesus to remember him that day. And Jesus said, truly I tell you, today you'll be with me in paradise. So those were the first 2 words. And again, the words are not single words. They're statements that Jesus made while on the cross. They don't all appear in the same gospel. Some of them are in Matthew, some in Mark, some in Luke, some in John. Some are in a couple of the gospels and not in others. And some are only in one gospel. The one tonight is only going to be found in one gospel, not surprisingly, the Gospel of John. And this is the one that is really quite touching. As Jesus again is on the cross, going through all that terrible pain and agony, he's been through this mockery of a trial. It's been a week unlike any other in human history, for sure. And now Jesus is up on the cross, and he looks down, and there's a few folks that stayed by his side all the way. A lot of them have abandoned Jesus. Maybe they were afraid. They didn't know what was going on. And we do know that there was a couple of people that were very close to Jesus at the cross. One of them was his mother, Mary. The other was the disciple who Jesus loved, it said in the scriptures, and that is John. And so Jesus now is up on the cross, and as he's looking down, I want to read this from the New King James Version because I really like the sound of it in this version. So let's look at John chapter 19 here and verse starting with 25 to, I believe, 29. Maybe 28. Let's go ahead and read. Now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. Isn't it interesting? The women didn't abandon Jesus. The men, the disciples, most all of them were nowhere to be found from what we can ascertain in the gospel reading. But the women stayed true to Jesus because they loved him. And again, it was interesting as we fast forward a few days, 3 days, Mary Magdalene goes to the tomb and finds it to be empty. The 2 Marys go to the tomb, and it's empty. And so they're the first ones that actually know that Jesus has risen from the dead. Isn't that interesting? So when Jesus therefore saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing by, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, that disciple took her to his own home. Really touching, isn't it, how Jesus now has entrusted his mother to John, who was not really related to him, but was very close to Jesus. He was, again, that disciple whom Jesus loved. We read that word, not that Jesus didn't love all the disciples, but there was that very close bond that he had with John. And that's one of the reasons I just love the Gospel of John, how it really brings that intimacy out between Jesus and John. What do we make of this tonight? Couple of things as we look at this real briefly. Again, we're not going to get in this real deep, but Jesus very likely didn't have any other brothers there at the scene. At that point, we're certainly led to believe that none of his brothers even showed up to watch the crucifixion. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not sure I'd want to watch someone I love to be crucified either, for that matter. We don't know why they weren't there. We can only speculate. We also believe that Jesus' father, Joseph, has since passed away. So Jesus' earthly father, Joseph, the carpenter, has passed away, we do believe. So all that's really left in his family actually here is his mother and his aunt, and then a few of the real close friends, such as John and Mary Magdalene. Well, because Jesus was the firstborn of his mother, though he was the Son of God, fully human, fully God, he still had that responsibility of making sure his mother was cared for after his departure. And so in this case, he now calls on John as a brother, someone so close to him, to look after his mother. And I'll be honest with you, I read this story, I don't know how many times. I'm not sure until just this most recent reading that's really hit me, what it says in verse 27. Then he said to the disciple, behold your mother. And from that hour, that disciple took her to his own home. So here now, Mary, the mother of Jesus, is actually now brought into John's home, and he treats her as his own mother. It's an amazing story, amazing amount of love. You know, the Bible talks a lot about cases where people found other families, really, in a sense, to watch over them. You know, we have the story of Ruth and Naomi and others as well, where someone was brought into a home that really wasn't their home. Elijah was brought into a home that wasn't his and was welcomed in, and God received that person's generosity and hospitality as a blessing for that person who welcomed Elijah. And really here again is another case where John is so committed to Jesus that he counts it as an honor to bring his mother in today in this reading of the 7 last words. So again, this again comes to us from John chapter 19 and verses 25 through 27. And again, Jesus looks down, sees his mother, and he says to her, woman, behold your son. In other words, here's your son. I'm commissioning John now to be your son. And then he tells John, okay, look here, here's your mother. In other words, you two are now going to be mother and son. And amazingly how this all transpired, where John then takes care of Mary from that point forward. So really don't have a whole lot else to share about this tonight. I just want to bring these out. You can meditate on them. You can look them up yourself. Again, this one again from John 19 and verses 25 to 27. So again, I thank you for joining me tonight on this presentation of the 7 last words of Christ. A beautiful presentation tonight on this. Next week, we're going to look at one of the hardest ones, I believe, and that's the one that we read where Jesus says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And he was quoting, I believe, the Psalms there. So we'll look at that one maybe in a little more detail next Wednesday, and that'll be on March the 31st. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you have a good Wednesday evening. God bless you. We'll be back tomorrow at around 6, hopefully, for our intergenerational confirmation class. We're still looking at the 10 Commandments on that. Stay rested up. I think we're all kind of dragging through here, at least I am. And don't overdo it. Don't get yourself fatigued. Just do what you can, but just stay in contact with the Lord. Really reach out to the Lord here on these days, because I believe he's really especially close to us right now. Just reach out and touch him. He wants to have that connection with you and with me and with everybody. So just don't feel like you're too tired for the Lord. That's when he wants you to come to him. Come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, I will give you rest, Jesus said. So we can come to him for rest. So thank you all for watching, Paulie and Rose and everybody else. If you're watching live, God bless you. If you're watching this after the fact, we're so glad you're joining us tonight on Facebook Live. Hopefully we'll be back with you tomorrow again, same Facebook Live channel here basically, and looking forward to Palm Sunday on the 28th of March, this coming Sunday. So until then, God bless you. Have a great evening.